time is 6:31. We will call the July 18th edition of the Committee of the Whole meeting to order. As always, we have people online, so remember to make sure you use your microphones before you speak. And we will go to the roll call.
Mike Murray.
Here.
Adam Gigas.
Here.
Richard Yerington.
Present.
Sean Zabinski.
Here.
Mitchell Kale. Lamont Kiefer.
Here.
Nellie Pater.
Here.
Dean Peterson.
Here.
John Glenn.
Enough for quorum.
Yes.
Cool. Great. All right, we will move on to the reports. I have the mayor's report on here. Is that
No, that's an typo.
Okay, so we'll go to, I'm assuming it's the city clerk report for agenda item 2, the city clerk monthly report.
You want to do the minutes first?
Oh, yep, sorry, thank you. Agenda item 1.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes from June 20th, 2022. Sorry, everyone. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll go to agenda item 2, the city clerk monthly report.
Thanks, Adam. So I did submit a June 2022 report from last month. We did have one of our deputies did leave the city employment, so he did go to the VA. So that was Matt Baumgartner, so we thank him a lot for his service. He did a great job for us, so I think he was really great to have, and so we're sorry to see him go. We are currently recruiting for that position, and I did get about 20 applicants. We're kind of going through them now to kind of weed out those who maybe don't meet the skill set, and then I'll be doing phone interviews this week and hopefully setting up in-person interviews the week after that. As far as an election update, we do have our election coming up on August 9th, so don't forget about that. It'll be here at City Hall and Fire Station downstairs.
August, what's the date now?
August 9th.
Your report says 8 in here.
All right, sorry about that. Please change your report. The date is Tuesday, August. It's always on a Tuesday, August 9th.
You have a
Thank you.
marker, so I can change it in here.
Are you looking at this?
White out.
Sorry about that. I was in a hurry to make my report. I spent the last week at the University of Green Bay's Clerk and Treasurer's Institute, so I was doing continuing education, which is a requirement in my position. I didn't go to it last year, so even though I'm going into my 3rd year as a clerk, I went and completed my 1st year at the Institute, so I have 2 more years to go. Learned a lot of new things there, a lot. Things that probably would help me a lot if I had gone in the 1st year. It just kind of really wasn't in the cards until now, so.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, it's weird, but you make a lot of good connections, and it was very educational. There's a lot of nuggets that I'm going to try to institute here, just little things, but to be honest, it made me feel pretty good because a lot of the things that were brought up as cautionary to things that we're supposed to be looking for that we don't do as a municipality, we don't do. So I felt really good about the fact that we're following what we should be doing. And so one thing I just thought I might bring up, since a lot of you are on other committees, is to take a look at your agendas on other committees. I'm very, very careful with the committee of the whole and the council agendas, and Nikki does the long-range planning, so I feel comfortable with those, but we always want to take a look at our agendas and make sure that we're being specific on there and not talking about things that aren't on the agenda. I think that was one of the biggest little nuggets that I don't know how all the other committees are doing. I'm just saying we might want to take a look at it if you're there. So that was just an example, but there was a lot of things like that. So between recruiting and going back to school and elections, we're getting pretty busy. We do have in-person voting, absentee here at City Hall starting next week, Tuesday. So if you're interested in that, we are going to be here. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the treasurer, we have agenda item 3, the June 30th, 2022 cash investments report.
Good evening. I present the June 30th, 2022 cash and investments report. It looks really nice this month because we closed on our bonding, and so there's a lot of cash sitting there. Obviously, that's earmarked for projects. And as we discussed last month, the bulk of that is actually held in investments right now, so we're hoping to earn a little money on that, as we'll be using it in the draw schedule for most of it for the EMS building. So we've got some of this money for a little while, and we're hoping to earn some interest on it.
So we went with the Eller's plan?
Correct, it is within hours.
They laid out a plan that looked very.
Yep, they followed, they
appealing.
took our draw schedule and then our other purchases into consideration, and they're investing it, or have invested it, to follow our needs. So I'm hoping that will, I mean, it should definitely show
That's
some
Fund
progress.
7 you're talking about?
Yeah, and actually, it's in Fund 7, it's just on the schedule, I should have put it probably in Fund 8 for the capital, because that's where it will all go, but, like I said, we just closed, this month. And then, again, I discussed last month, or mentioned last month, a few of these, accounts that we've had in CDs for years that are getting really low interest rates, we've decided to pull out and put into our money market accounts for the time being. The interest rates between the two vehicles were not much different, and we're hoping we can invest them in some higher yield options as opportunities approach. So,
Well, can't we use some kind of a plan like Eller's designed for the
Exactly.
bonding?
Yes, and
Find
they're looking-
Another plan,
they are looking at expanding our investment portfolio to include.
short terms, the latter, that mature different times.
Yep, so, but the first step was getting
Try to
them,
get some.
as they mature, as these CDs mature, getting them out of that vehicle so that they're not tied up for another
Maybe
2
they need to
years.
afford to get them
Yeah.
ready for that.
Yep, exactly, so that also happened here in June. So I would entertain any other questions on that, otherwise I submit that.
I do.
Yes,
The ambulance fund, is that included in the general fund?
the cash, yes. Yeah, I probably could break that out, I don't know, I am following the same schedule, but yeah, that's probably a good idea. It's, included in that 01 on this schedule alone, obviously on the financial statements that breaks it out, but.
So that means that the general fund balance that you're showing of about 4,500,000, about $1 million, 2 million of that is ambulance money?
That's probably correct. $1.5 million, probably. But, yeah, somewhere in that vicinity. Any other questions on that? Do you want me to continue with my report, or do you want to?
Yeah, well, so I would entertain a motion to approve the June 30th, 2022 cash and investments report.
So move.
Second?
Got a motion by Richard and a second by Mike. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Right. So yeah, go agenda item 4 now, the May 31st, 2022 revenue and expenditures of comparison.
So I've got, the May 31st revenue with comparison to expenditures. I would answer any questions on that. Otherwise, my report sounds very similar to Becky's. Our AP clerk, Candy Moss, accepted the position as the ambulance billing clerk, and so I am hiring that position. We had a really great response, and I'm hoping to get interviews started either later this week or early next week.
Is that a full-time position?
That's a full-time position, yeah.
And you're gonna recruit outside or inside?
We posted it internally first and then posted it on Indeed. We have closed the position because we had a great response and we think we have enough qualified candidates. We want to get someone in there because Tim and Christy are excited to get Candy up here and trained for ambulance.
About how many did you get?
I would say we had about 30, 35. Not all of those are obviously qualified for the position, but we probably had 10 to 15 pretty strong
Okay.
candidates. So I was happy with the
That's
response.
where the other position was around 20.
Yeah, and that was a part-time position, so that's probably a little tougher to fill.
Yep.
And then I also attended UW Green Bay Treasurers Institute last week. I have one Canvas course, they call it, that I have to complete before the end of the month, but then I've completed year 2 of that program, so I have 1 year remaining there. And then otherwise, we're working, trying to get the budget going. We're hoping to start meeting with department heads in August, so getting back to that time of year again. questions?
Anything stand out on the report?
Not anything real out of the ordinary. We are gonna have an issue toward the end of the year here because, gas prices, all our input prices went up across the board. So I know, Joe is struggling to fill his mowers and, Tim was in this morning, fire department's expenses are higher than they usually are. So we do have some room in that contingency. And so we'll have to be looking at that over the next couple of months. But it's tough here.
Well, it's nice to warn us.
Yeah.
But we can be thinking about it.
Yeah, and then along those lines, we're just finishing up our final tax collection of the year. So that will be, the deadline's July 31st. So get that wrapped up for this year as well.
So are we going to see what the budget is going to be looking at for next year anytime soon?
We are working on the department level to just kind of put our expenses and everybody's wish list. And then we'll probably follow the format that we did last year where we met individually and then met kind of as a team to see where we could cut. We won't know what our net new construction is until the end of August probably, so we won't have that levy limit amount until that time. But obviously, trying to cut wherever we can, keep it tight, so.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's always prior to mid-October, we have our meeting in mid-October.
Yeah.
That timeline's all gonna stay about the same.
That will stay the same, yeah.
Any other questions for Molly? Thank you. Parks and Rec, I don't see Joe here.
I'm gonna say one thing for him though,
All right, perfect, right in the,
if you could.
go for it.
I wanted to give not only the set, but Hayden Eckelberg, a good shout out, and CBS Squared. We started back, I believe it was just about a week ago, to apply for a grant, and it's called the Defense Community Infrastructure Pilot Program. And what we did was put in for the Toma Athletic Complex, and it's based around military installations. So that deadline was at 7 o'clock tonight, and I believe it was downloaded about 5 o'clock. So CBS Squared got that in, and it was just shy of 9 million, 8,500,000. It may be hope and a prayer, but we're going to see where it goes, and hopefully it does. That would be really awesome if we got that.
So what is that grant consist? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
It was meant to support military installations in their missions. There's 3 different tiers, and we did fall in the lowest tier. Obviously, we are not able to help them with the airport or that infrastructure that's more defense related. So we kind of fall into that community-minded part of it to help them promote the wellness of their troops and kind of that along that lines. So I mean, fortunately, look at where we are, Port McCoy, Port Field, VA. Hopefully it would fly.
How much did we apply for?
8.5 million, just shy of 9 million.
For what purpose?
The sports complex.
Badger 5.
Building,
Yes.
corporate complex.
That's why
Brick and mortar.
we've been holding off doing anything on that property right now. It's supposed to be shovel ready, and we are as shovel ready as we can. Shane just gave us the land disturbance permit today. We have all of our stormwater permitting done. We've opened up a pit for sand mining, for fill, and really we were just left with Joe and looking for the documents just to be polished up for bidding.
So we just applied, it's just, we're part of a competitive
Yep.
application.
Absolutely.
process.
Yeah, we just made the due date.
Yep.
So,
And there are
What did we put in to spend $8.5 million? What did we have there to do?
fields, soccer fields, pickle fields,
That was only like a
Parking
million
lots.
something.
That's what we have now, yep. We would only be doing what we can
So we didn't
afford.
apply for 8.5 million then?
Yes, yep, through the,
So
through
if we
this
got 8.5
grant.
million, we'd come up with a plan to spend the rest of it, or?
Yeah,
Yes,
the original plan I think we were shown only covered the replacement for the Legion field. Was it the other two softball fields at the same time too? Was about,
depending upon how the turf, non-turf
Yeah.
went, but yeah, it
That-
was really basic for that. I believe 1.8 million is what we had.
but the other stuff they showed there, like the pickleball fields, tennis courts, I don't know if they were tennis courts, but pickleball courts, soccer fields and stuff, that was all like future vision,
Right.
what we could do with
That
more
was
investment
pretty
down the
minimal
road.
stuff,
So,
yeah.
it sounds like-
$7 million worth though.
yeah, so it sounds like this grant sort of makes a whole, is it like the whole complex then a reality?
It
of
is.
8.5? Like that's the whole,
It is,
wow, that's amazing.
hopefully.
Cool.
And there are other communities, 9 million, 20 million, for these same types of programs, so it's not that far-fetched that, we could be seeing some money, so,
All we can do is put it in and see what happens.
yep, absolutely. But it was a last minute, kind of rushed, by everybody to get all the information we needed, but the final document is presented very well.
Excellent. We have any other questions on the Parks and Recreation front?
Just
No, knowing
one.
that it's not Joe up at the,
Just,
They had an excellent turnout over the weekend down there for their Warriors program.
oh, the SCA, right,
just a question for, one more question, may I ask?
Sure, absolutely.
Did you have any input with Fort McCoy out there at all for this grant?
Yeah, that's a good, very good question, Nellie. Mayor Mike and I went out there Thursday for the change at command, and Colonel Pass signed our letter of recommendation for that. We also,
Was the last thing you did?
yeah, it was the last thing you did, absolutely.
Heck of a time to catch it.
It was, and he knew about it ahead of time, we were just happened to be going out there, so
Yeah.
it worked out really well. He would have signed that anytime we wanted him to, but, yeah, that was a huge endorsement and required, through the grant.
Yeah, because the new colonel just started. So, that's good.
All right, we will move on to the Public Works and Utilities section for agenda item 6, the Public Works and Utilities Director report.
So we are painting white, we just got done with that. You kind of see these no parking signs scattered around, typically on the corners where the yellow is. That's what they're working on tomorrow and whenever the weather is good for them. We did some asphalt patches for the water department and a handful of storm sewer repairs as well. We met with TAPCO, and that was on Chief Holmes' crosswalks that he had introduced you guys for the ARPA money. And we met with that supplier, got some more information, and those should be working on those when they fit in. But we are getting closer to getting those installed on Main Street and on Clifton. I don't know if you noticed, downtown Thursday nights, we did hang the flag up here for Military Appreciation Night. I got a lot of good comments on that, and we plan to continue to do that. It's a lot of work for fire department to hang it off the ladder truck, so we kind of worked with Mecca Sportswear. We really appreciate their help. They put the grommets in the flag for us, and continue to do that. I don't think we're going to do it every night, just because the Military Appreciation Night is something special, so we'd like to keep it that way. I'm not sure if you've seen on the eastern side of Superior Avenue, we've tore up a number of short blocks from Kilbourne to Woodard. The first one was Knott Street. We did get the curb put in that and paved. The next one we tore up is Brownell Street. That should hopefully be paved this week. And then down the line, Saratoga Street will be next. And then eventually we'll end up by on East Juneau by the Casey Hall. not on the bingo weekend, hopefully. And then we also anticipate redoing the blacktop down on Washington Street, kind of in by Smokes and Kelsey's in that area. And that'll be kind of a big one for us, not only the people going in and out of the factories down there, but just, it's a wide, big intersection, so we'll try to tackle that one last. And we have a retirement also, Stuart Westfall, his last day is September 2nd, and he'll have 40 and a half years service with the city, so if you see him, I want to congratulate him. Chip sealing, our chip sealing program is scheduled tentatively for the first week in August. That'll probably change 6 times before it happens, but that is the tentative schedule. I sent Richard you an email to keep you informed on that, not only with your area, but the housing authority also in that parking lot.
Is there any prep work that we have to do prior to the chip sealing?
There, I looked at that contract today, and they blow out the cracks and seal them, so should be good to go. It's just gonna be a matter of coordination on you guys' end to get the parking lot emptied and do that, so. And again, your area, your district is gonna get hit heavy with this. Tried to communicate with the chief, ambulance and fire could be slightly affected. Kind of sitting there thinking I probably need to get a hold of the armory, and I did speak with Toma School District also.
Some of that district is Sean's also.
Oh, okay, I apologize for that. I'll keep you on the list.
Yeah, Franklin is basically the dividing line.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. That's good to know. I didn't know where that was exactly.
North side is mine, the south side is hers.
Okay.
Well, John Glenn's got some in there. And then
I'll just copy it.
Glenn is on the east of Glendale.
Okay, yeah. All right, sewer department, same thing, they've got chip sealing on the schedule too for their parking lots. And we did go out for bids for the roof replacements at the wastewater treatment plant, and we awarded those, and that work is scheduled to be done this year. Excuse me, the water department, probably the bigger thing we've been working on is re-permitting the wells at the VA. We've just signed the permits today. They made payments on that, and we're back for a 5-year permitting. And they're the only ones in the city that are permitted to have wells within the city limits, just as an FYI. And we replaced some hydrants throughout town. One was a hit and run on West Veterans. Whoever did it very well. Carried the hydrant about 8-10 feet. So, and last thing, the Lake Committee. We have a meeting scheduled for this Thursday in this room, 5 o'clock, and we will be discussing. Probably the main topic is our vegetation survey that we had completed, and where we're going to go with that, and what our plan of attack is. If you have any other questions,
I have one. Whatever happened with the goose survey that was talked about? There was, we were looking at doing something with those geese out there.
We initiated a program to try to reduce geese population. It seems like it's been somewhat successful, not only with some chemicals, but various arsenal items that we had in our toolbox. So.
I have 3 items to ask you about.
Sure.
Damaged totes. How do we get covers replaced if they've been damaged?
Just let us know. We can turn in any warranty for that. So trying to go back in time when I think it was 2016 when we initiated the garbage. We have a 10-year warranty, so 2026 would be warranty items.
This, the one that I'm referring to is one of the new ones with the yellow top.
Even better, those were done in 20 or 19, so definitely covered.
Second attempt question. Is there anything that can be done with some of the potholes at 12 and 21? Or 12 and ET?
12 and ET is scheduled for 2023 reconstruct, and that responsibility lies with the county for any of those.
I know there's some pretty vicious potholes there.
Yeah, ET drove today with Joe, actually, and it's not getting any better by any means, and that's probably gonna be pushed out till 2024. So, if anyone were to call my office and ask the same thing, Richard, I would refer them to Monroe County, because typically they're gonna be in the driving lane, what you're
Yeah,
calling.
this one is, some of the big ones are in the turn lane.
And I did have a lady call last week about the same thing.
And the other thing is, I want to compliment you on the work at the compost yard.
Thank you.
It looks very nice.
Yeah, you know, we just really weren't taking a lot of pride with that over the years, and I think the guys stepped up and just really made it, drains better, it's more identifiable where we would like people to put their various items, and yeah, it's really worked out well. Appreciate that.
Yeah, Director, is there any chance that you could contact do you have contact with the county and the commissioner on behalf of the citizens now that there's been a couple complaints?
Yeah,
Do you have communications with them?
yep, I can, absolutely.
Can they help out with that? Ask them about.
I'm sure they're, go ahead.
So that you can report back to us on what their comments are about when that will be done. I'm sure they're busy and, you know, like everyone else, it's those kind of projects are fill-in projects when they have some time.
Yep, I will do that.
Haven't been down by the lake, but how's that project coming?
Slow. The last thing I heard is Wednesday is when they'll be ripping up the streets and putting in the dewatering, and that is going to start on West Juneau. You know, I'll say that's probably going to change 3 times, not 6, but it seems to be going slow, and my hope right now is it is dragging out, but my hope is that there will be 2 to 3 crews come in and the pain will be less for the residents, hopefully.
Still
It'll be
be
all
done
at
at the
once,
same,
but it'll be,
it's the same deadline, but if you start later, just
yeah, that's the hope.
less time.
And I think Joe's project is going to piggyback off of that also in the park, going to St.
Is that West Juneau or West, I didn't think West Juneau was part of the project.
Oh,
West
excuse me,
Monroe.
West Monroe. Yep, you're right. Yep, right by the church.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Kirk? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the police department, we have agenda item number 7, the June 2022 Police Department Monthly Report. Chief.
Good evening, everybody. Couple of staffing issues. Our newest officer, John Reigel, doing well in the appeal process. He starts, or has started step 2. I got an update on him today, so they're pretty excited. The training staff's excited with his progression, so he's doing well, very dedicated. Everything goes as planned. He should be out on the road in September. Officer candidate Audra Gomez is still in the police academy in Sparta, doing well there. And Deanne Batten has assumed the full-time clerk role. She's pretty happy with that role, and she's doing well. She enjoys her job there. Update, we had our second annual canine golf event. Went great. We had some rain in the morning, but it stopped just in time. Again, thanks to all the sponsors, volunteers, and especially all the people that participated in the event, many of which are in this room, so thank you. We ended up raising approximately $17,000 for the canine.
Wow.
That was really good. And before that, Tomari Credit Union held a brat sale on behalf of our canine program, and that brought in about $4,700. So on the year, we're about $22,000 for the program. So that's fantastic. So that'll get added on to what we made last year, and eventually, I think we got about 2 more years left of our current canine working life, and then we'll replace that dog. And then, of course, there's vehicle expenses, cages, all the equipment, and all those things. So this is good. This is a program that's funded by donations. Food's donated, vet care is donated. I mean, literally everything. So we're very, very lucky and fortunate. So that's been a great event for us. We've auctioned off our old training vehicle we replaced earlier in the year. That brought in $6,500, and if I understand correctly, that goes into a revenue account when it comes in. Auction vehicles, yeah. So that'll be coming in. Lastly, been a busy summer for sure. With all the special events, we got a couple more left. And just like to thank the patrol staff for working the extra hours to make those as safe as we can. Any questions at all from me?
I do have one question. How many officers do you have present on Thursday nights?
Two.
Two? Okay.
Two dedicated to the event, and then there's typically 3 dedicated to the city.
Because there's so much going on right now.
There's a lot going on. Yeah.
Just kind of wondering if we have our officers just to kind of look over the event.
Yep, that's exactly what they're doing. They're just down there as basically a presence in case anything major would happen. This is the first year that we have staffed downtown Thursday nights. It's gotten bigger and bigger, which is great, but with bigger and bigger comes potential issues. So, yeah, we have dedicated staffing down there, usually 2 officers.
We thank you for that.
Thank you. Anything else?
I just noticed on your report, parking citations,
Parking citations, yeah.
10 for the current month, current year 288, prior year 88. What are we enforcing differently?
Our night shift sergeants are putting more of an emphasis on 2 to 6 parking. The downtown area is typically what it is, and alternate side parking goes in there as well.
During that season?
Yeah, it's more of an emphasis, and that comes from the command staff down to the patrol staff.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious.
No, I get it.
No
Yeah.
complaints or anything about
Right.
it? Just
Yeah,
happens to be a number that just jumps.
Yeah, the 2 to 6 parking, like in the downtown area, we put some common sense in there, what we try to. It's illegal, okay? It's a parking violation from 2 to 6 to leave your car on your car on the 1100 block of Superior Avenue. Some people get really emotional about a parking ticket, which I guess, $20 ticket, sure. But if we're pounding that parking, we're also in a roundabout way encouraging people to drive home, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna
And
say,
that may not be,
you're
that may not
penalizing
be great
people
either,
for-
so we're constantly doing the balance with that, but, yeah, there's some lots that we enforce.
Do you forgive any if they come in with that story?
Sometimes, yeah, you bet,
Somebody comes in and says, hey, I left it there, we got
Yeah.
it right.
yeah.
Couldn't drive.
Now, we gotta, weigh it, because there's a lot of people that come in with all kind of crazy stories, as you can imagine, but, yeah, we look at all of it. It's not, if we dismiss 1 or 2 or 10, sure, happens all the time.
Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Because I would hope that would,
Yeah,
because you don't want to encourage people to drive.
no,
That's
not at all.
counterproductive.
Mhm.
Anything else for the chief? Thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right, moving on to the general portion of the agenda, we have agenda item 8, approval of airport hangar contract between the city of Toma and Timothy Schramm. Schramm?
Schramm.
Cooper.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by, was that Mike, and a second by Richard to approve. Any further discussion?
I'm assuming this was just a standard contract.
I can talk to this. This is a standard contract. In fact, so we only had one hangar open and available, and he actually, Mr. Schramm actually flew in from, I think, Montana or North Dakota or something like that over there, and he had parked there, and he came to City Hall and said, well, I'm parked there and telling on myself, what can I do? Because he needed somewhere to put his plane. So that's why we kind of hurried up and got this penny drew up the contract. This is the standard contract we use with every airport hangar rental.
So he's gonna lease it for a year or just a month or?
It's a month to month. He has to give 30-day notice before he vacates.
Any other discussion on this item? All right, so I have a motion and a second to approve the airport hangar contract. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 9, approval of resolution of restatement of City of Toma special pay plan. Becky.
but really all it is an update of language required for these types of plans. So if you weren't here back in, I think it was 2016, this plan was adopted as an additional form of retirement plan for some employees. So it's twofold that this plan is kind of great, because when you retire, you'll get your pension if you've worked at the city for a length of time. But a lot of times when you retire, you also get a payout, a large payout based on how much vacation you have saved up. You are also entitled to up to 30% payout, up to 960 hours, I think it is, of sick time, and any, that's pretty much it. So you get that all in your final paycheck. So that's actually a really big detriment to the city, because we have to pay taxes on that too, And not only that, but then the employee has to pay payroll taxes on that as well. So what this does is it allows the employee to put their money for a payout into a plan that's not going to make them pay taxes on it. So it goes into a 401k plan. So, or a medical pay plan. They have two choices, and we work with Palion Benefits they do an interview with the retiring employee to make sure that they're going to get the right plan for what they need. So for instance, if they are younger, or they've got quite a few years until Medicare picks up for them, then they might need the money to go into a medical account, because then they can use it to pay for premiums until they get to be on Medicare. Or maybe they don't need that and they want to put it in a 401k because they want to start investing it. But it allows them to put it away before it's taxed, so that the employee is not taxed and the city's not taxed. So it's a kind of a win-win situation for everybody. So this plan, because there was new language added, it's very technical. There's nothing as far as the city's concerned that is changing for our procedures that will change anything that we currently do. It's just required for us to adopt this restatement saying, yes, we do want the special pay plan, we're going to continue it like normal, otherwise we will not be able to continue the plan for our employees. That's kind of
Using the verbiage that they want. us to
using the new
use
verbiage
at
that
the
they
current
want.
time.
That's correct.
I'll make a motion to
I'll
pass this
second.
on to the council for approval.
All right, I got a motion by Lamont and a second by Dean. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. So it just stays like that, it never changes, right?
The plan itself, right, as far as we're concerned about how their implementation of it and what the city has to put into it, no, that's not changing. So it's really just a matter of changing the language in the plan to update it to current.
It might create some restrictions on how they can withdraw it.
I mean, and those are told to the employee before they pick which account that they want to put it in, and they work with this other company. I don't know the big differences between the accounts, other than one's a medical one and one's a 401k. I don't get it involved into that part of their benefits, because that's after their employment with the city. They work with this other company to pick the right account for them.
So once they retire and they're done with the city and they retire, then that is handled through a different company. We no longer have, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
We don't have our fingers in it at all. It's moved on to another company, and they would deal directly with them if they needed to take any money out of those accounts for any reason.
Or they could take a lump sum and pay the
Or
tax.
they could take a lump sum and pay the taxes or any penalties, depending on what kind of account they have.
They have three options.
Okay.
So that option is still available for the people that don't want to put it in a 401k or put it in a medical account?
According to our policies right now, it's not in our handbook that they are required to put their money into that account. The question, since you talking to Mike so that folks can hear you in the recording, but, so right now, when it was adopted in 2016, it was put in the plan that anybody who receives a payout of $2,500 or more would need to use one of these two special accounts to put their money in. Otherwise, they should use up their vacation, or they should, not have such a giant payout for that. if you don't
Understood, and I
want
remember when that went in, because there used to be just a final payout from the city, and then the city administrator run with this third-party
Right,
business. So what has been going on is all of the compensable time went into, in this company, and then the retired employee had an option on what they wanted that money to do.
right.
Now, most officers, and I can only speak for officers, you have a pension, most are investing in a 401k. Many get jobs that have afterwards that you don't need medical insurance. I myself, when I retire, I'm covered through the VA. I don't need any of those things. So most officers, in fact, every one of them that I know of that has retired, has chosen the option of taking that lump sum payment from this company. So is that option still going to be available?
Well, according to our policies right now, as it's written in the handbook, that option is available. It's not required that they use this plan. However, when it was passed in 2016, it was intended for anyone receiving payments of greater than $2,500. So I don't know, I wasn't here, so I don't know. what
I'm
the
just saying,
discussion
once the
was.
money goes to this company, I just want to be clear, is one of the options, will it continue to be that recently retired employee would be able to draw that money out?
Yes, they'll always have that option.
That's-
They'll be able to take the money as cash and pay the taxes on it, or any penalties that there might be for taking it out early. Or they could use it for the purpose of the account, like if they retire and reach a certain age and start withdrawing it, or they could put it in the medical account, use it for medical purposes. They'll always have, it's their money.
Right.
It's just a matter of how the city's putting it in there for them and having this relationship with this other company to allow, mostly, it's not to force people into anything, it's to allow an option for people not to get hit with thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of taxes on payroll taxes. That's kind of, and the city as well.
Right, so there's a cost savings for the city, if I understand from 2016, right? If that money is deposited in this account,
That's correct.
it's a tax savings on the city's end, and then the employee who's going out the door has an option, they can take the tax hit if they want that. Am I
Right.
following this?
Yes.
And that's not gonna change?
No.
Okay, thank you, and thanks for letting me come back here.
All right, any further discussion? All right, so reminder, the recommendation or the motion is to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 10, vacation policy revision.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, I got a motion by Richard to approve and a second by Mike. Any further discussion? Kirk, how did we get here? What are we looking at?
I guess basically we tried to lay it out pretty simplistically in the staff report. What we're finding is one of the major weaknesses is our first 0 to 2 year employees. Basically the first year employee is the big hit when you start with, quite honestly, you're accruing 40 hours, you can't use 40 hours. And that's a big hurdle for recruitment, coming here and not having any vacation. So we started to look at the program. We tried to put some national averages here for comparison. We tried to put the federal government for comparison. I've lost 2 employees, public works to the federal government. Treasurer has lost 1, and clerk has lost 1 part-time. Actually, I've lost 3. So that is a definite comparable that we are looking at for competition for those good employees. There is a handout that has a highlighted area on it that, if you flip that over, Richard, is what we did not include in here. So it's a little bit of a change from what originally was sent out in the packet. Basically, it just takes 8 hours every year and adds on to the employee and it maxes out at 17 years. When we were putting this together, Molly came up with the initial thought of this tiered program. And when I was kind of putting it together, I got focused on the 20 years, maxing out at 200. And it really wasn't fair to the employees that are in that 3 or 4 years before that, or in the 12 years, waiting that time frame when the other people in the lower tiers got it. So I would appreciate you looking at the one that's in the handout, not in the packet. That is what we would like to see happen.
All right, any questions on this? Pretty set.
So, just to be clear, I think we had this discussion a little bit before council on, how much they can, when they retire, how much actually that can be cashed in. Is there going to be a set amount that they can cash in, if they leave or if they retire?
So the maximum, and you two correct me if I'm wrong, but the maximum, if they're a 20-year employee, would be 200 hours plus 80. So they would be able to have 280 hours on the books, because that's what the way our policy is written. Whatever you have accrued, and you can go 80 hours over.
So we won't run into that issue of somebody just not taking vacation, because again, that was part of the policies that we put in. So we didn't run into that the maximum you can have is what you've accrued plus 80. So we did want to carry a little over from year to year, but we won't have that 20-year employee that now has 1,000 hours of.
And that's where I'm coming
Right,
from.
yeah, we won't ever run into that again. That it just can't happen.
We have 4 to 5 employees, just about every pay period, losing vacation because they don't take it.
Right.
Just as an example. So we do monitor that, and that is whatever level you're accruing, you can have that plus 80 hours.
And we really want them to take it. I mean, that's why we're giving them this generous
Absolutely.
plan, so that they can get dressed up and refurbished and.
We tell the supervisors, we
Please,
practically beg them to use it, but
please do it. Listen, employees, please take your vacation, use it.
If I may, really quick, just kind of add to this, because this has been a discussion we've had throughout the set. This isn't just Kirk, bringing it to you. We've definitely discussed this at length to try and find out what would be best for recruitment, what would be best for retention. And it seems like we have 2 different groups here. We've got your people who are like 0 to 10 years who are saying, well, and truly our plan is antiquated compared to what the current national averages are. But then you've got your 20-year employees who just can't seem to find time to use it. So it's not, I just wanted to make it clear that it's not, we don't just have people who have too much. We also have people who don't have enough. They're on both ends of the spectrum. And what we're trying to do is even it out a little bit throughout the years.
I mean, in my job, we have to use it we get it 240, 208 hours. In January, we have until December 31st to use it. If we do not use it, we lose it, because we can't carry it over.
That's the way it is in the city too.
And we're encouraged. In fact, my boss says, when I got 100 hours, and that every month I'm off, because summer is just crazy for me. And it's like, you're gonna be out for 3 weeks, like it or not, because he doesn't want me to lose that. But, so then, that answers that question. So anybody coming in right off the bat is gonna have 40 hours, correct?
everybody coming in is just gonna get dumped right into this. You're gonna accrue so much per hour per pay period.
Okay.
And it's gonna be complicated for payroll to set it up. Not unattainable, but we would expect at least a month or more for this to be implemented, just to make sure that everything is right and hire dates, anniversary dates. It is a fairly large undertaking, but I think Kim, the payroll, and Molly both understand that it's something that can be done, and we would like to see it done.
So we're looking at so many hours per pay period.
Correct. So then you would be able to use that whenever you accrue it. Not work a year, not be able to take any vacation, none of that business. In this, just to be specific, this does not affect any of the bargaining units or the sworn police officers that follow
Department heads, how's that gonna work with this?
that would include us,
Okay.
yes.
So,
And anybody that's already in the system?
There are some anomalies. So the anomalies are people, what I saw, people that are in that year, the way we're doing it is you're accumulating to get to the, let's say, the 8th year. So in the 7th year, you accumulate at a rate so it's there to use on the 8th year. Those people would actually be negatively impacted. So we would obviously want the latitude to make sure that those people weren't negatively affected. And there will also be some scenarios where department heads have negotiated different vacation levels coming into the position
Question,
than the standard.
do we not have department heads that come in with a contract when they first start, when we hire?
Yeah, but they're still following all the policies in our handbooks. This would be one of them, but like I said, they've come in and they've negotiated that vacation because through the recruitment process, that was one of the weaknesses, and to get them to come here, some of those individuals negotiated a higher vacation to start out with.
how will this affect part-time employees? Will they be accruing at the same rate per hour as a full-time employee?
Go ahead, Becky.
All right, I can talk to this one a little bit. So, because I have a part-time employee, so I have a vested interest in knowing what they're gonna earn for vacation. So, the part-time employee would earn at the same rate as a full-time employee. However, it would be based on their schedules, based on their
the number of
schedule.
hours they actually work.
Right, so like, for instance, the full-time schedule is a 40-hour-a-week employee, and if at the end of, of the first year, they would have 80 hours in their bank, then at the end of the first year of the part-timer, should have 40 hours in the bank. It'd be exactly half, because they work exactly half of the schedule. That's how that would work. Does that make sense?
Whatever their time is relative to the total.
Relative to the total.
20-hour employee, that's half. If they were a 30-hour employee, it
It'd
would be
be
three-quarters.
three-quarters, right. That's how it would be calculated.
Pro rata.
So Kirk, I heard you mention the latitude to make some decisions where employees wouldn't fall neatly into these things. Is that in this proposal, or does that need to be considered in the motion?
That would be greatly appreciated if it was in the motion. We haven't looked through all of those scenarios, but we did notice at least 2 at the minimum, and I'm sure there's other people that, it's really dependent upon your anniversary or hire date, where you fall in our current and where you're gonna drop in the proposed. It's gonna be, I would venture to say it's not gonna be any more than 1 day of vacation, either way, is what it.
Richard, would you be willing to amend your motion then to,
Someone.
and then Mike, your second? Okay.
So just one more question. City employee, police department, and who else is not?
Ambulance,
Okay,
am I missing any, guys?
okay.
How do they fit, how does this fit to theirs?
They're governed by a union contract.
I know, but how does it look?
This is,
Is this relative to
More or
those
less.
contracts?
this is better.
This is the little.
This is gonna be better, so you're likely gonna hear from the unions during contract negotiation that they're gonna wanna go with something similar.
Okay.
On the flip side, the contract at the police department allows for, this tops off at 20 years. The police has a 25-year mark, so once you get into your 25th year, you start earning 240 hours. That's part of their contract.
So that's an 8-hour increase basically for each year too, from 20 to 25.
Right.
So it would be more than 240, according to your contract, correct?
For the police,
Yeah.
the max that they can accrue, once they hit that 25-year mark, it goes to 240. Where this one stops at 200. You can work
Okay.
here for 40 years and it stops at 200.
So they'll be asking for some kind of schedule that
I would assume,
goes with,
I would assume,
with this to get to those same ends.
right. Yeah. And ambulance gotta be the same.
Be prepared.
So we'll see it again. I gotta say, I'm a fan of anything that makes us more competitive as we've been looking at some of these things. It's nice to see that we're spending. And also a reminder, department heads to make sure your employees are using their time off.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Was there any thought to keep going from 17, 18, 19, and 20, to keep adding, to give us, we don't have many employees that go there, to have that as a recruiting and a retention tool, to even go a little bit higher?
We didn't, I think just because of, we started looking at the comparisons to the national average and the federal government, which has been one of our biggest competitors. 208's where the federal government, and actually 160 is, I believe, where the national ends. So we're still in the middle and maybe more towards the high end.
Well,
I was just curious if there's any appetite to go all the way to the 20,
I have 40.
to be a leader instead of a follower. I'm not necessarily advocating it, but.
I gave a little pushback on this, but we really started looking at this, in my opinion, at the bottom, the bottom people 10 years and 15 years. The people that I see in our recruitment process may only be here for 10 or 15 years, more than likely. So, yes, we would love to see people like Stewie, 40 and a half years, don't have to retrain, all those things, but probably not.
So I'm just saying, if we did that, it isn't going to affect us much, yet it's there as a tool. That's my only thought about that, because it doesn't affect hardly anyone. But maybe we can keep those people that we've trained all those years a little bit longer. if
Most
we have a
of them
little
are
more.
staying anyway, they ain't gonna leave because they ain't getting more vacation.
That's definitely a two-sided coin. to look at,
Yeah, I understand both sides, absolutely.
When you get to $200, that's one day every pay period that you have to take off if you're gonna use it up.
Right.
Okay, right, I'm not advocating for it, I'm just throwing it out there, man. There's no appetite.
More vacation time than work time.
Well, I would say I have over 40 years with the government, and I get 208 hours a year. And after 15 years, it's 8 hours a pay period. That's it.
All right, any other discussion? All right, so we have the motion on the table is to approve the policy while giving, I assume, the set team then, or set the leeway to deal with the inconsistencies or the ones that would, because we're not, hopefully not negatively impacting people. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the good explanation.
All right, agenda item 11, creation of ad hoc committee to discuss combining fire and EMS departments.
Why don't you just stay up here?
Yeah, we should just get wireless, like a Kirk mic and a Scott mic and a Tim mic, and you guys don't have to come. Molly, you can get one too.
We get a mic later.
Oh, I like it.
So we feel that there's some issues out there that would probably warrant an ad hoc committee. I think I listed those in the report. We currently have 2 facilities on city land. One's in the general fund, one's not. What are we going to do to dispose of those? I think we need to have a committee that's impartial to come up with a suitable plan for both sides and how we dispose of those. We also want to look at the potential for combining fire and EMS, and how that would affect the city. There's a number of places that have done that. Most recently, where we have some concerns or we'd like to address the per cap. I know that there's a meeting coming up, and that could be one of the smaller items that may not have to be addressed at ad hoc, but I guess in general, we're looking to have the mayor form a committee to help get us down the right path with those issues that I mentioned.
Well, I think a plan for the per cap in the long run is a good issue for that particular group. Might not be for the one coming up right now, but in the long haul, where is that going? And have them look at it objectively, what it's funding. Because we have so many objections on the townships that it's just not necessary. And the ambulance shows some profit, but it takes a lot of money to put in, to have in their capital fund to keep that all going, because they're gonna have some big payments in.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion by Mike and a second by Richard to approve. Nellie, you have a question?
I just have a question for you, Kurt. Ambulance and fire separate. Ambulance department has their own budget
Enterprise
and
fund.
separate entity. So how would you combine the fire with the ambulance since they're a separate, taxpayers don't fund ambulance? How would you do that?
So actually Molly did some research on that, and I think she found a group that specifically handles that scenario. Baraboo just went through this most recently. One of our neighbors, about the same size as us. So it's, the way it sounded to me, it was becoming more of a common theme and approach out there, and it's just one that we need to have the discussion. Whether it's right for us, we don't know yet, but there is basically a nonprofit organization that would help us facilitate that for a very low fee. So we'd just like to get that before this ad hoc committee and see if that's right for the city to go that
So
route.
you would want this ad hoc to just kind of discuss and get ideas and making things a little, maybe some changes, if possible?
Changes and potential changes for the EMS fire combination. And I think it's going to bring some unbiasedness for funding of the building that we're putting up and who pays what, and what happens with those properties that need to, are we going to sell them, we're going to reuse them, in the city, and how does the ambulance get compensated, how does it, all those things. So it's just kind of just a web that was woven. There's no really agreements, and we just want to try to get those, spelled out so everyone knows what's going on.
Okay.
And then who would be on
Yeah,
that committee?
I think what I anticipated was the mayor to form that committee, but that's for you guys to decide.
Okay.
Tim, do you have any thoughts on this? Like really kind of back there and quiet a little bit?
Yeah, it's all new to all of us, right? Just, all we can really do is go out and do the research, in my eyes, we gotta really understand where the budget's gonna go going forward, how we're gonna, in my first vision was we're gonna have a fire budget, we're gonna have a EMS budget, and then in the middle we'd have a public safety budget, but then that gets really complicated, where both entities would shove in, like for the utilities and things. Maybe this is the way to go. I mean, it's all we can do is, explore it and see what our options are, so. Yep.
Mayor, do you have any ideas on the composition? Where you would go, city participants versus public participants versus industrial participants?
Oh, I think, I mean, in perusing it, I would imagine probably 2 off the council. And then try to go into, maybe we could get somebody from the hospital, maybe, somebody from one of the clinics. I wouldn't even mind bringing a EMT or paramedic on board and perhaps a fireman on board, just to discuss all the different, Adam would probably be one of my choices to be on the board.
How about
simply-
somebody from the township? Just a thought.
Yeah,
Right,
Yep.
Well, they're.
For the
they
per
call it
cap?
Per cap, and then they
Just
get
from
the
that
ambulance
and
or-
it's a real, on a different look, a real different look.
yeah, I think that'd be something to discuss, but.
If it's something to think about, if per cap ends up in the purview of what the ad hoc committee is going to discuss, then you probably want to have someone on there sooner rather than later, because it doesn't seem to go so well for us after the fact.
Well,
We want to do a subcommittee. just
yeah,
Pretty good all the time.
again, I think at this point in time, we step away from the discussion of what's going to happen rather than, because that, trust me, that can go down a lot of rabbit holes. As to my vantage point on it,
Sure.
it's I think through discussion, I would probably sit down with a SEC team. I agree with you, Lamont. In my mind, there's some positives, but there's.
You can
some
also
definite
bring them
negatives.
in too, actually, the
There's
committee
some-
could bring them in at a meeting and.
There's some definite
Without having
negatives,
the
there's
right
some definite
contact.
positives to having somebody from one of the townships. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. But at this point in time, I would probably call the vote.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the creation of the ad hoc committee. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to agenda item 12, request from Kelsey's and Smokes Elbow Room for extension of Class B fermented malt beverage license and Class B liquor license for special event on August 13th, 2022, and closing of the alleyway.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We got a motion by Dean and a second by Nelly. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Agenda item 13, approval for City of Toma housing assessment, Vandewall and Associates.
Move to approve.
Second.
I got a motion by Mike and a second by Sean. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just a little input. Richard, maybe you help me out with this. Don't, in the housing authority or CDBG, don't, every couple of years or something, some organization do some housing assessments, like through La Crosse, Cooley Cap, whether we have adequate low income, medium income?
Yeah, there's a regional one that's done on, by determining whether or not, basically sets the minimum rates for, or maximum rates for rental rates for your voucher system, and what is considered the different levels of need. And then there is an assessment of what availability to meet those needs.
So we would have some information, maybe not as complete as this, but there would be some, at least to supplement this in the housing authority. I believe we have in our records, because it's done because we had a comparative to previous times also. But Rachel always laid everything out so well,
Yeah,
but it's got to be in the archives.
I believe it's mainly done through La Crosse County.
Right, it's a Cooley Cap type, the regional. It's done for the regional. So anyway, we should look into that.
Any further discussions?
What is the fees for this one?
$7,500. And I guess the way, Shane, just jump in if need be. We talked about this at long range planning. Shane is, in his group, is working on updating the comprehensive plan. So that could cost you anywhere between $10,000 and $20,000 if you had someone do that. What Shane is wanting to do is form a committee internally and update it with our own sources. But this data is gonna help them do that job, so you can kind of look at it as we're spending that money not only on this housing assessment, but also the comprehensive plan update.
So what data is it going to give us?
So in your packet, the data collection portion, this will include data from the following sources: U.S. Census, American Community Survey, U.S. HUD, and I believe that's probably might be what Lamont's referring to, Zillow, MIT Living Wage, MLS, and others. This data will provide an understanding of the city's housing situation in comparison to Monroe County and the state as a whole.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but part of this will be consultative in the sense of advisement on their behalf of what might be in the best interest of the city in approaching housing developments, things of that nature.
So, I think you're exactly right, Mayor, and what, I think the key to this document will include key findings and summary data points that give the city insights on the community housing situation.
So is that going to give us an inventory of what we have for rental properties in the city?
I'm not sure about rental properties. We did discuss vacant buildable sites. So,
I think one of the key things with a situation like this, and what you were talking about, Lamont, is when it comes through HUD, it's purely information based on here's what is there. I think the step that's going to go beyond that is this is going to throw some
What we should have?
feasibilities of what might the city undertake, how does it fit into our budgetary lineup, things of that nature. It's one thing to have the information, a whole other thing to have the information along with feasibility.
Yeah, compiling all kinds of information and compiling it, and then never doing any conclusions about it or summarizing it or having somebody look at it. In the Lake Committee, we do some of that, and we need to analyze it and do something with it and have someone tell us, with this data, what do you do?
Yeah, you're absolutely
Have we ever done a report like this before?
I don't know of a housing report, no.
I don't remember anything of this nature.
I don't recall one through the Housing Authority since I was on the board, and that's been close to 30 years.
So how they explain this is, their big thing is, you do the study, so you know what you need, and they have in other communities, obviously this would be that next level with additional funds, but they will go out and request for proposals from developers. Those developers coming in here, if they realize that you have a study, and the council's behind that study, that they know that the city's gonna work with them, and it's a community, or it's a developmental friendly community. So your odds increase dramatically to get someone here to do a housing development.
Kind of like the hotel study we did too.
So will we see this study when it's done?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They have in here presentation to the Long Range Planning Committee, but obviously that would be shared with the entire council too. And they are bringing in businesses for open discussion to get their input. That's part of this proposal also. Facilitate one virtual 2-hour meeting with local employers, businesses, and realtors to gather insight on the issues, opportunities, and challenges associated with the existing housing market.
I know Cardinal Glasses will be very interested in that one.
All right, any further discussion? Reminder that the motion on the floor is to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I hope we'll have some additional information, we'll look into that. See.
Agenda item 14, resolution authorizing payment of monthly bills.
Authorize the resolution.
Second.
All right, I got a motion by Lamont and a second by Sean. Any further discussion?
I know it.
Huh?
No,
Oh,
Sean,
was it Nellie?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
did you say?
I seconded it.
Okay.
They both seconded and
Nellie third.
Okay.
Second
So
square.
so Levinsky?
They didn't hear
yes, sorry.
Oh, I just go with the first that I hear. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion by Dean and a second by Nellie to adjourn. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, as of 7:46, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.